Welcome to our last Photoshop tutorial. Today I'm going to be going over layers, and layers are what makes Photoshop so great to work with. So what I'm going to do first, I'm just going to open up a new file. Oops, make sure I'm in Photoshop. Okay, 7x5, 300, I'm okay with that. And as you can see, I opened this up, and immediately if we look over here in our layers panel, it says layers, you can see that it says background. There's a lock and an eyeball. So what this all means, this is your background. You should always have a background, and you should always leave your background white. So just leave it plain. The little lock means I can't do anything really to my background, like move it or anything. The eye is for if you can see it or not. So if I just go and take my brush tool and start painting on it, you can see over here in the layers, you can see a little bit of the preview, and you can see that it shows that I'm painting on my background, which I don't want to do, because if I want to get rid of it, it's kind of a pain. So instead, what I'm going to do, I can go layer, new, just layer, and you can see it just kind of gives you some options. I just click OK, and you can look over here in the layers, and you can see I have a new layer. It's called layer 1. Whenever you see the little checkerboard, that means it has a transparent background. That means you can't see it, the background. So if I start going like this on the new layer, you can see that you can see the preview with the little green squigglies everywhere. Let's make it more visible here. Okay, there, now you can really see it. So you can rename this if you would like. It makes it easier to know what is on which layer. The visibility, so if I click it off, that just means that I can't see that layer. If I printed this out, this would still print. This is useful if you have a lot of layers and you need to look at something specifically without being distracted by all your different layers. You can do that. Up here, you can see the opacity right now is 100%. I can change that to lower. So if I don't want something, at 100% opacity, I can change it. You can mess around with this, different types of layers. But I would say for the most part, I would just keep it normal. Okay. Now let's say that I want to open up a picture on here and put that on there. So I'm going to open this up and I'm going to select it. Now I went over this in the previous, one of the lessons, the magic wand tool. So I'm selecting the background because it's all white. Now I'm just going to inverse it, select inverse, copy, go to my other picture, and now I'm going to paste it. So there's my turtle. I'm going to shrink him a little bit. He's pretty large. Okay. Now you can see I have another layer. Layer 1, I'm going to name this turtle. Okay. Now let's say I want to do some text on here. That's too big. There we go. Being a pain. I don't want 150 point. That is way too big. Okay, so now I have my text layer. And as you can see, and I talked about this during the text tutorial, the text layers look a little bit different. So I can change this. Remember, I can change this into a normal layer if I want to. First, I have to, if I want to do any of this arc stuff or any of that, I have to do that first before I can change it to a normal text. Okay, so there's turtle. And if you don't want to do anything like put a gradient on there or paint over top of it, you don't have to change it to a normal layer at all. You can leave it as a text layer, that's fine. So let's say I want to do a shape. Okay, you can see the shape layer. It actually says shape. Now this kind of acts like a text layer in that it's kind of like a special layer. So I can change this to music. Alrighty. Okay, so let's say I have all these things on here and I'm like, oh man, I really want this music note behind the word turtle. So what can I do? I go over here into layers, and whatever is on the very top of my layers panel, that is what's on the top of my document. And whatever's on the bottom is going to be on the bottom. So I can move this music note underneath the word turtle, and you can see that it goes underneath it. I can move it there too if I want to. It's a little weird because my outline is the same color as the word turtle, but if I go like that, you get a better indication of it. Okay, so anytime you want to move something to have it ahead of something else, like say I want this turtle to hold, let's say I just draw actually, let's do this. Oops. So if I want something, like I'm going to draw a wand, I'm going to want to create a new layer for that so I can move it by itself. Okay, so now what I can do is I can move this, but I want the turtle little hand to go over top of it. So I got to move this down. Okay, that looks good. I'm going to move the word turtle down here. Going to move my music note. Now as you can see, when I click on something, it knows what I'm selecting, and that's because I have the auto select on there. So that's why you always want to make sure you have it on there. If I don't like a layer, like I'm like, this green is this too much, I can delete it. Okay, so you can delete it just by pressing delete, or you can drag it down here. There's a little mini trash can. Never drag anything onto your desktop from here. You got to stay within the program. So I can click and drag to the garbage can. And let's say I want a gradient in the background. What I can do, down here there's this little circle, half of it's filled. I click on that and I can go, and this is to create a new layer. I can do a solid color if I want. Okay, or I can do a gradient. Or I can do a pattern if I want. So there's different choices that you can do there. Say I want a new layer, instead of going layer, new layer, I can just click this little square here that has the corner turned up, and look, it gives me a new layer and I can do whatever I want. Okay, so what I really want you to take away from this lesson is how to move things so that they are, things are on the top that you want there versus on the bottom, how to delete layers, how to create new layers, how to create backgrounds, either a solid gradient or pattern, because you're going to need to use that for your monster packaging. So hopefully this answers any questions that you have, so you can go ahead and work on the assignment number 5. Thanks.